Once upon a time, in a peaceful and prosperous kingdom, there lived a wise ruler named King Alden. Unlike many kings who ruled with power alone, King Alden ruled with vision. He deeply believed that the true strength of a nation was not in its gold or soldiers, but in the attitude of its people. He often watched his people and wondered, will they act when something needs to be done? Or will they only complain and walk away? One morning, he decided to test them. Just before sunrise, King Alden went with a few guards to a busy road that connected the marketplace to the royal palace. It was a road walked by merchants, ministers, farmers, and even travelers every single day. In the middle of the road, he placed a medium-sized boulder, not too heavy but not light either. It was big enough to block the center of the path, and small enough that one person could move it with a little effort. Then he hid behind a large tree nearby with his guards and waited silently. Not long after sunrise, a wealthy merchant appeared, dressed in fine robes and walking with confidence. He stopped when he saw the boulder blocking his way. He frowned. He looked around, clearly annoyed. Then he said to the man walking beside him, "What kind of mess is this? Is no one in charge of keeping these roads clean? This is unacceptable." The man with him nodded. The merchant then said, "I don't have time for this nonsense. I have a business to run." Without another thought, he stepped around the boulder and went on his way. What he didn't know was that the king himself had placed the boulder. A little while later, two royal ministers arrived. They were deep in conversation about the affairs of the court. When they saw the boulder, one paused and said, "Looks like someone dropped this from a cart. Should we do something?" The other laughed lightly and said, "We're already late for the council meeting. Someone else will move it." And with that, they both stepped aside and continued on. As the sun climbed higher, more and more people came. Some saw the boulder and walked around it. Some stopped, shook their heads, and muttered quietly. A few pointed fingers. The officials should clean this. But no one stopped to remove it. Everyone had a reason. Everyone was in a hurry. And everyone thought someone else should do it. By late afternoon, the sun was gentler, and the shadows had grown longer. From the far end of the road came a poor farmer named Thomas, carrying a basket of vegetables on his shoulder. His clothes were worn, and his sandals were dusty from the day's work in the fields. As he approached, he saw the boulder in the middle of the path. He paused. Then he gently set his basket down. He didn't complain. He didn't look around for help. He just thought to himself, "If I walk around it, I'll be fine. But what if an old man comes this way tomorrow? What if a child trips over it? It doesn't take much to make the road better for everyone." So, he walked up to the boulder, placed both hands on its sides, and began to push. The boulder wasn't enormous, but it was stuck in the dirt. At first, it barely moved. Thomas braced his feet, leaned in, and pushed harder. He wasn't injured. He didn't fall. But a few minutes of effort brought sweat to his brow. He took a breath, pushed again, and finally, slowly, the boulder began to roll to the side. After a few more pushes, he managed to move it completely off the path. The road was clear. Thomas wiped the sweat from his forehead, smiled to himself, and turned back to lift his basket again. But just as he bent to pick it up, he noticed something unusual. Right where the boulder had been, there was a small leather pouch lying in the dust. He picked it up carefully and opened it. Inside were several gold coins, gleaming in the sunlight. And tucked inside was a folded note. He unfolded the note and read, "This reward is for the one who took the time and effort to clear the path, not just for themselves but for everyone. King Alden." Thomas stood still for a moment. He looked down at the gold, then up at the sky. He smiled, not because of the reward, but because of what it meant. At that moment, the trees rustled behind him. From behind the branches stepped forward King Alden himself. Thomas's eyes widened in shock. He dropped to one knee. But the king raised his hand and said gently, "Stand up, Thomas. Today, you have taught this kingdom more than any minister ever has." Thomas stood quietly, unsure what to say. The king continued, "Many passed this way. Some were powerful, some educated, some wealthy. But they all waited for someone else to act. You did not wait. You acted. Not for fame, not for gold, but because it was the right thing to do. And this is what makes a kingdom great. True greatness isn't defined by status, wealth, or education. It lies in the quiet courage to take action when no one is watching, in stepping forward to make a difference, not for praise, not for reward, but simply because it's the right thing to do. That is what truly makes someone great."